Open Door is the podcast multifamily owners, builders, and developers turn to for insights, ideas, and identifying solutions. You don't want to miss the latest episode. Welcome to Open Door by Cox Communities, a show dedicated to bringing you the latest information, hottest trends, and newest technologies for you to consider when making decisions for your multifamily communities. Hi, I'm your host, Valerie Sargent, and today we have two amazing guests joining us to delve into a topic that's reshaping the way properties are marketed and advertised: artificial intelligence. So I'm thrilled to introduce Martin Canchola, the Chief Strategy Officer at Apartment SEO, a company at the forefront of digital marketing solutions for the multifamily housing sector. Martin brings a wealth of expertise in leveraging AI to enhance property marketing strategies and drive business growth. And along with Martin, we also have the pleasure of being joined by Sarah Liu, a partner at Fifth Wall, where she co-leads their early-stage real estate technology venture fund. With her deep insights into emerging trends and innovations, Sarah provides invaluable perspectives on the intersection of AI and the multifamily housing industry. Together, we'll be diving deep into the current uses and potential future applications of AI technology in marketing and much, much more. So without further ado, let's welcome Martin Canchola and Sarah Liu to Open Door. Welcome, Martin and Sarah. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us. Great to be here.
Great to be with you both. Now, before we get into some of the amazing uses and potential for AI today for marketing, I'd like to ask both of you, what sparked your interest in exploring AI technology within the multifamily housing industry? So, Sarah, perhaps you'd like to start us off with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think from my end, AI has certainly, it peaked in interest since probably November 2022, right? After ChatGPT really hit the scene and became much more popularized amongst your general population. AI has been around for a long time, but it wasn't really until that boom in generative AI specifically that we started to see a lot more startups trying to leverage AI in new ways that were driving pretty meaningful improvements in just productivity and effectiveness as well. So that's what really piqued my interest. And I wanted to make sure that we stayed abreast of all the developments that were going on.
Martin, how about you? What got you interested in AI?
I think ultimately for me, since I was in the internet marketing world and always kind of trying to see what Google was up to, what Bing was up to, I think the big bang moment, like Sarah mentioned, was when ChatGPT really hit the scene in 2022, because that really started the race of SGE, the search overall generative experience. Of course, Bing and ChatGPT kind of were the leaders in that. And then Google pretty much tried to catch up to follow the lead there. And they even brought back one of their original founders to kind of, hey, what's going on? We really need to step up. That was the first time I ever saw Google really shaking their boots. Google's been the king of search for 20 years. And now there's a shift happening again. And right now the SGE wars are on. And, I see Bing, being a big proponent of that. So I'm just excited to see where this can go and what the future can bring for us.
That's awesome. Martin, what are some key types of AI tools that are available in the market for multifamily housing businesses?
Yeah, I think ultimately, definitely, apartment marketers need to take ChatGPT seriously. They need to take a little time to get to know it. 3.5 version is free, so there's no reason why you can't dabble with it a little bit. Then you have the 4.0 version, which is a $20 paid version, and there you have a lot more access to plugins. They can actually read into websites. They can do image generation and reading into images. So I think there's a big plus there, and just kind of taking a little dabble into that area, and maybe even doing some classes on Udemy on prompt engineering, because I think understanding how to create prompts, how to do post prompts, and give ChatGPT as much information as you can about the topic or whatever you want to focus on is going to be important, since ChatGPT by itself only has internet content from up to 2021. Whereas when it's actually hooked up to Bing ChatGPT, the search engine, that's more real-time data and access to the World Wide Web. Next, I would even say Google Ads is a great toolbox for AI and a way to embrace it with newer campaigns like Performance Max and Demand Gen. Google's really using AI for recommendations on the PPC side, giving you more tools in your tool belt to really take action and get the audience that you're really trying to look for. Another one is Canva, great for apartment marketers to, create flyers or create display ads. They can really use Canva and generative AI in that piece as well as a valuable tool. I also see a big rise in voice or artificial intelligence, which I want to dig into a little bit later into the episode, and just talking about how voice AI, that's going to change the game with, secret shopping apartments, maybe even being able to actually answer the phone and actually get the lead started, or at least get the interest built up and then transfer them to like a real-time rep. Another popular one is Elise AI, which is like a conversational chatbot. I mean, there's so many different, I just came back from RecCon, and there's so many different AI products out there. It's just about, finding the one that's going to make the biggest impact and one that makes sense for you. I wouldn't say just go chase any AI that's out there. We got to find a reason and then, kind of put it into like a pilot and test it out overall. But there's a ton of things out there that I think is worth checking out.
Just a follow-up question to that, Martin. I wanted to check between the paid version versus the free version. I know you said that the paid version reads into websites. Is that doesn't happen with the free version? Is that what I understood?
Yeah, so there are some limitations with the free version.
Mm-hmm.
So like when you try to like have it analyze the website, it sometimes says, we're not able to look into that. So with ChatGPT 4, they have plugins where they can actually review the web. They can read into web pages. Because if you want them to like write content for it or look at it, it's important to probably use ChatGPT 4 over the 3.5 version, because you're still going to be extremely limited on what you can actually do there. You just have a bigger engine with the 4.0 version overall.
How can owners and managers identify the most suitable AI tools for their specific needs and goals? You gave us a lot of resources, but how can they figure out like, okay, this one is the right one for me that I should probably pursue?
I think it's important to be selective. It's important for apartment marketers and apartment owners to find the problem first that they want to solve. And then from that point, find the certain software or AI tool that can help you with that. Sign up for a couple demos, get some feedback, and maybe even set up a pilot for one or two of the properties. But I wouldn't just chase AI for the sake of chasing AI. You need to find a specific need instead of just trying to take a shotgun approach. You got to dial it in. Is it something for fighting fraud? Is it something that we need to just build a better, robust marketing campaign for Google Ads and enhance like the visual ads and create video ads, which AI is great at? So I say just find the specific need and the problem and then go from there. Don't just do AI for the sake of doing AI. I would say that.
Because everybody's trying to jump on that AI bandwagon.
Mm-hmm. It's a bandwagon. It's a bandwagon right now, and it's really bad.
Sarah, from your perspective in the industry, what are some of the innovative ways that you've seen AI being deployed to support portfolio management?
There's quite a few, right? I mean, despite the fact that there's a lot of bandwagoning, there's a lot of hype and a lot of kind of charlatans out there, frankly, trying to sell things that are not actually all that useful. There actually are also quite a few use cases that we found with our LPs, who are a lot of largest owners and operators within multifamily, ways to add real value to the portfolio using these types of tools. So just starting kind of at the very beginning with, a listing, for example, right, for a potential property, there's a lot of opportunity to use AI for image generation and augmentation. So there's tools like Apply Design, for example, where you're able to just upload some photos. They don't have to be even, very clean or for professionally taken photos. They could still contain, the prior residence furniture or whatever else. And that platform can clean up the photos, improve the lighting, remove all of the previous person's furniture and anything else that you don't want to be seen in the image, and then actually help you virtually stage the image as well, using furniture that's photorealistic so that you can actually have a more attractive listing, right, versus just an empty space. And you can help residents actually envision what it would be like to live in that space. So that's a pretty, straightforward use case in the sales and marketing instance. And of course, on the language side, you can also then use the AI to help write the description for the actual listing and make it sound very attractive, save time for your leasing manager from having to write that manually. So that's kind of, the basics on the listing side. And then, as we get into some of the more technical stuff, folks are probably familiar with some of the revenue management tools out there today are kind of focused on just helping price, but we're increasingly seeing great tools like Hello Data, for example, that are able to analyze amenities and actually use computer vision to see, not just that you have a pool at your property, right? And so do 5 of your competitors, but you might have an infinity pool that you invested a lot of dollars into, and your competitor might have a pool from the 80s that is in a completely different shape. And, those shouldn't necessarily be assigned the same value when it comes to pricing. So being able to go one layer deeper than where some of the traditional revenue management tools were able to go by using AI and using computer vision and analytics is something that we're quite excited about as well.
Can you walk us through the role of AI in streamlining the leasing process? Hearing some of these things, how does that go?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, once you get into leasing, a lot of it comes down to just the touch points with prospective tenant, right? And that takes a lot of time, oftentimes answering questions, scheduling a tour, all of which can now kind of be taken over by AI chatbots for the most part, right? Martin touched on Elise AI. There's quite a lot of other tools out there. Some folks are even building their own using just the OpenAI API that's available. So that chatbot function, I think, is growing increasingly popular and going beyond just the scheduling the tour phase. We're seeing more and more folks also implement AI into the actual leasing application phase, where you can help walk a tenant through what they have to fill in and explain why you need certain information, things like that as well, just to hopefully pull up the application timeline and help them fill out the application, hopefully in hours instead of days.
Well, you raise a thought that Martin brought up earlier with the concern for fraud. And that's been something that I know a lot of people are really concerned about and they're dealing with in the industry. What are some notable applications of AI that are in fraud detection?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, fraud and bad debt, unfortunately, I think are generally going up in a lot of markets right now. And that has to do, frankly, as well with AI, right? The flip side of it is you're seeing more and more folks using AI to generate fake pay stubs or fake income statements and things like that. And so you really need to kind of fight that with even higher quality tools than what you might have had before. So a lot of folks are now using AI to do a better job at verifying whether or not an ID is fake, for example, doing a better job at directly verifying income and being able to check if, what you're saying about your income is actually true. And where I think over time this goes to the next level is, for example, Vero Leasing is looking at doing this not just for kind of each individual customer at the customer level, but also thinking about aggregating that data, right? And over time being able to know, actually, maybe credit score doesn't correlate as much to tenant quality as we thought. Maybe income actually is what should be kind of given 80% of the weight, right, in that process. So being able to take those more aggregate takeaways as well to understand how to better screen tenants, how to better detect fraud is something that is also quite enticing, because we're already starting to see like their ability, for example, to catch a fake ID that was used in one property at a different property because the same fraudster tried to apply again, right? So having kind of that aggregation over time and greater volume is only going to make a lot of these AI applications more powerful.
Mm-hmm. I've seen websites where they are actually selling packages to help people get this fake information so that they can get an apartment. It's unreal.
Yeah, it's scary. I mean, it's unfortunate too. You see on social media, even like TikTok, like there's people who make videos about how you can scam your potential landlord.
How are they still in operation? Hi, that is illegal. Martin, I'm wondering if you can elaborate on how marketers are utilizing generative AI for multifamily communities.
I think on the apartment marketing side, first and foremost, I'm already seeing a lot of apartment marketers embrace ChatGPT as a way for content creation. But I must caveat, when it comes to using ChatGPT for content creation, because Google recently did a March 2024 algorithm update, which was actually targeting solely AI generated content. And this is probably more for bigger sites that produce a lot of content. I think, media, there's like a whole bunch of other sites that kind of got dinged for AI content specifically. So I think when multifamily marketers are using ChatGPT to create content, it's important that they give ChatGPT as much information of an outline of what they're kind of looking for, the locality, the floor plan, the keywords they maybe want to implement. But at the same time, when they get the output back from ChatGPT to still perform some post prompts after it to fine tune it, and then put it into a Word doc and put at least 20% of your own human experience and expertise into the piece itself. We still have to create, in Google's eyes, it's all about double EAT. We got to show experience, expertise, authority, and trust. And we can't do that by just plugging and playing something we get right out of ChatGPT. So if you are going to use it, embrace it, create the content from it, but still have a human go through, edit, review, and add a 20% more value to show Google about your, you know the local area, you are an author. So communities themselves can become authors. They can be publishing on LinkedIn, on Google Posts, on their own website blog, where the community can be shown as an author on the blog. So that's what Google wants to see. They want to see communities and people become more authors and create that authority and that expertise for the local area. And by proving that and using ChatGPT, it's a winning combination. But if they are just solely using ChatGPT for content generation and posting it directly on the website, that's an issue.
Okay. So it's like using all of the generated information, Google is able to tell like, that wasn't really you. All right.
Yes.
So 20% is the magic number, people.
I would say at least 20% at minimum. And then the next one I think is a cool technology that multifamily marketers will probably use in the future to come up with lifestyle images and ideas for that is like a company called runwayml.com. And that's image generation. So you could sign up for a free account. You could just type in whatever you think of. And of course, I put in Bigfoot and an alien having coffee together, and it'll just create an image of it. And it's funny, the more you have it do a redo of the image, it actually kind of looks worse. I feel like the first result you do is usually the best one. And the more you have them try again, I feel like the image just gets a little more twisted.
And
let's just say
for people who are creating content for blogs or whatnot, to have an image that you have created via AI, you don't run into licensing issues then, right?
You should. And I would imagine if you're using a platform like this, you have the licensing rights to it, I would imagine, but that's probably something you definitely want to dig in to, just to verify you do have the full rights to that image once you generate it from the platform.
Okay.
But I imagine like with Runway, you would have free access to use it as you please.
Okay. Can you explain the concept of AI hallucinations and its relevance in the context of property marketing? I don't understand that at all.
Yeah. So AI, so with ChatGPT, they say so that's the thing with any large language model, right? There's so much information that's within there. So if you were to put in the ChatGPT, Mary had a little, and then you press enter, there's a good chance it'll put lamb. But if you do that over and over and over and over and over again, there's going to be a different result. And so I remember when we were at AIM last year, the Apartment Innovation Marketing Conference in Huntington Beach, we were there last year and they did like a nice little, kind of like a workshop for ChatGPT to, find some competitors and kind of put together like a marketing strategy. And so they had all these prompts that they had everyone do, but it was funny. Two of the apartments, like they would put in, okay, find my competitors online and do that. So 2 out of the 3 of the competitors would be real apartments. And like the third one would be a completely made up apartment that wasn't even in existence. ChatGPT just literally made it up. So no matter what you do, there's a chance that ChatGPT can be making up information. That's another reason why if you're creating content about a local area, you want to verify the businesses and items that it mentions in there, because there's a chance that it might have just made it up. So that's why you just want to be double checking all the work that's being produced from ChatGPT, especially if you're putting it on your website, especially if you're talking about real brick and mortar locations or businesses that could be out there.
Okay. As we're thinking about SEO, how does AI impact search engine optimization strategies for multifamily companies?
Oh man.
I know you like to talk about this.
Yeah. It's never been more exciting to be in SEO. I remember because you remember when Google first came out and they had PageRank, in the beginning for SEO, it was just all about whoever had the most keywords in there and the most links. It didn't even matter if they were relevant or spammy. So Google had to get better at ranking their pages and really looking deeper into the content and the authority and the meaning behind it. Now with, Google and Bing, ChatGPT, conversational search, and FGE, the war is on right now. And I would say Bing and ChatGPT are leading the charge, but Google, as of right now, they're starting to release generative results into the wild. Before it was just in beta. Now certain users, for maybe more informational searches, maybe some local searches, some users are starting to see SGE roll out. And some chatter in the SEO community, Google I/O is like a big event that Google puts on in May. And so some are saying that they might actually be announcing the full release then, but nobody really knows when it's going to be released. But from my studies on the current beta of Google SGE, one thing I found out, Google Business Profile will still be a heavy impact after it's fully released. Your sentiment and reputation will matter. All the reviews that are in your Google Business Profile, let's just say, I don't know if any of you use Amazon. I'm sure all of us do. But if you look at Amazon and their reviews now, instead of having to go through all the reviews, they have an AI generated review that you read right at the top of the product, which encompasses the whole vibe of all the reviews that were ever met. So depending how good or positive that is, now Google Business Profile is going to have a snapshot of your apartment community in the profile when it's fully released to kind of tell the users what it's all about. Some are very good, some are very bad. One in particular mentioned this property has mentions of cockroaches.
Oh,
Can you
no.
imagine having that as your generative result, saying that your apartment is known for cockroaches?
Oh, great.
So it's like, how do we influence that? Or how do we make sure the reputation and sentiment is very good? And so reputation management is going to be more important than ever in this new generative AI. And it's going to still play a major role in how you rank on Google in the future.
Sarah, is there anything that you want to add to that?
I mean, I completely agree, right? I think that if you don't actually actively and proactively manage kind of what's going on with AI, you're going to be kind of the butt of the joke, so to speak, and you're going to fall behind essentially because everybody else who is going to have, really nice descriptions, for example, of their apartments, and you're going to be known for roaches or something, right? So that's,
oh, wow. Yeah.
You have to. It's not something you can ignore.
And Martin, what are the implications of the cookieless world? I love the cookie monster, but I do not love cookies of this type. What are the implications of the cookieless world on AI-driven marketing and advertising strategies?
Yeah, so now moving forward, it's going to be all about first-party data. And then especially if you're running Google ads. So as a premier Google partner, we're working with a lot of our advertisers and helping them getting set up on in what is called enhanced conversions. And so your website, if you're doing any kind of Google ads campaigns in the future for search or display, they want you to show your first party data. So when somebody submits the lead, they want you to be able to kind of showcase that lead after like the thank you page. And so Google can actually pick up that first party data. So you're going to have to make some updates to your website, the lead forms, to make sure you're capturing that. And then even go as far as working with your Google rep or your agency to set up a call with the Google technical tag team to make sure that's all set up properly. And it could take a good 30 minutes to an hour to kind of go through that process with the advertising agency and the web developer to make sure the pages are set up properly to collect the first party data. And a lot of times, if you're doing any kind of audience and things like that, you need about 1,000 good prospects to even run those type of robust campaigns. And a lot of times our multifamily industry, they don't have that many leads that come in. So if you're doing a corporate property management strategy, you might have enough leads in one local area where you have a lot of apartments and where it might make sense. But still, right now, it's all about kind of fine tuning your website, the lead forms to be able to present that first party data so Google can actually collect it. And if you don't, you're going to be losing out on a lot of conversions, which will affect your campaigns, and you could be throwing some money away if it's not set up properly.
Boy, I hope everybody has their notepads out during this podcast. If not, they're going to have to go back and re-listen and figure out like all the things that they need to do. You're both giving us so much great information. Sarah, how do you foresee AI impacting the competitiveness of multifamily housing companies in the future?
I think it's going to be something that is going to make the industry more competitive as a whole because the bar is just going to be higher, right? Whether it's the listing quality needing to be higher because if you have some dimly lit photos that aren't optimized and aren't staged versus others having these really beautiful photos and really attractive descriptions of their units, that's going to make your unit less attractive. if you're still relying on a person to manually answer the phone in order to schedule a tour versus others have kind of 24/7 availability via their chatbots to schedule a tour, that's something else that's going to put you behind, right? So across the board, AI is going to, I think, ultimately enhance the operations of everybody who's able to adopt it. And it's going to make it really obvious also who isn't adopting and who the laggards are. And that's going to really drive, I think, less competitiveness.
Do you think that this is an issue for authenticity, though? Like, if people are altering their photos all the time, and like, what if you show up to the apartment community and what you see is not what you get? I mean, are we running into a problem there?
Yeah, 100%, right? I think having that human judgment ultimately on where to draw the line is going to be really important. I think it's one thing to brighten up the lighting of the photo a little bit and put in some nice furniture so that people can get a sense of what it looks like. It's another to tell ChatGPT to make the room look twice as big, for example, right? And make the counters granite when they're not. So that's where I think ultimately human judgment still comes into play. But it's funny you say that, because some of these chatbots have actually been so successful, whether it's Elise, Colleen, et cetera, that we've heard stories of some of the tenants actually coming down and wanting to speak to this Elise person who's been so helpful to them, and wanting to work with that person specifically. So you're exactly right, Valerie. It does definitely, I think, start to blur, and it's hard to tell sometimes whether or not what you're engaging with is real or not.
It is. So I always worry about that. Like, what is the authenticity factor that's coming across if we are changing things? How do you both see AI evolving in the next few years, particularly in its application to property marketing and advertising? And Martin, I'll start with you on this one.
Okay, so I want to give a shout out to my friend Amelia Parmar. He's the CEO of Lease Magnets, and he actually created this really interesting voice AI, and he showed me a demo of it, and I was just blown away. So he showed me a real live call where the AI voice, which had a British accent, called a student housing community and secret shopped for an apartment for his son. And the person who answered it, the leasing consultant, had no idea they were talking to voice artificial intelligence, had a full-on conversation, and it was just so smooth and precise, and I just couldn't believe it. And so I could see the tables even turning to where a voice AI could almost at least build up the interest, like this is a qualified lead, and then maybe transfer them to a leasing consultant. But I could see it getting to a point where a voice AI could take them from start to finish if they really wanted to. The other evolution I see with AI is a rise in AI models and AI virtual influencers. I just read an article on TikTok. They're going to be opening up the floodgates to have their advertisers actually use their virtual AI influencers over the real actual influencers on their platform. So they're going to be going toe to toe. And you can just imagine the profitability for TikTok getting into virtual influencers and where that could actually go.
Wow. What about you, Sarah? What are you seeing as some of the evolving trends that may be coming our way?
Yeah, I mean, in the near term, just more and more AI adoption, right? And some of the sophistication is just going to continue to improve too, to Martin's point around voice AI. I think the lines will continue to blur when we know that we're interacting with an AI versus a person. But to be honest, I also think there's a lot of unknowns, right? There's quite a lot that is still so early right now. We're just in the early innings across the board. And all I know for sure is that there's probably ways I can't even fathom AI being used in kind of the 3 to 5+ year period that will meaningfully probably impact all of our lives, right? Whether it's AI, fully kind of autonomous AI agents, for example, whether it's people actually, using their AIs to assess where they might live, right? And doing kind of the voice calls or whatever else. Um, there's probably going to be all sorts of new tools that come up that, today I feel like we're seeing just better versions of what we're used to, but there's probably going to be things that change so fundamentally that, we can't even imagine yet exactly how the day-to-day might look in 3 to 5 years from now.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to live in a whole different world by the end of the decade.
Yeah, we probably are. I mean, it happens so fast. Technology changes so quickly. And especially with this, I think it's speeding up more than ever before. What advice would you both give to companies who are hesitant or unsure about incorporating AI into their marketing strategies? Martin, what about you?
I would just say, just take a little bit of a chance, dabble in it, educate yourself. ChatGPT is probably like the first gateway drug to AI, right? So just get familiar with that platform. It's free. There's plenty of Udemy and Coursera courses on prompt engineering if you just want to learn the basics to help feel a little more empowered. And then just start playing around with image generators. A lot of those are easy, just to set up a free profile and start putting in, whatever idea you have and just seeing how the technology works. And then if you're in multifamily, you're looking for different softwares, just drill down to the actual problem you're trying to solve and then try to use AI to make an impact there.
Great. Sarah, what about you?
Yeah, I certainly echo what Martin said as it relates to just, giving it a try. But I would actually lean towards working with, best in class vendors, right? For a lot of folks who they themselves might not be the most fluent or comfortable with AI tools, I actually think that the application layer of folks who are developing specifically targeting multifamily owners and property managers can be a great kind of middle layer and middlemen to, focus on solving problems, right? And that's ultimately too what I would encourage folks to spend most of their time on, is finding the best solutions for their problems, setting specific goals and for ROI, KPIs for their property, whatever it is, right? And being able to test. Most of these tools offer kind of limited pilots now, so you can get one license or you can try it on one of your properties and you can see, right? Okay, before I used to have a 3% kind of bad debt or delinquency rate. Now after I adopted Vero, it's 1%, right? If you can actually see and you can actually target that KPI, then that makes it, I think, much easier to justify using some of these tools. And that's ultimately what all of this is about, right? I would never suggest to someone to just use AI for AI's sake. It's really always about actually solving a problem or getting to a better outcome. So that should always be the orientation. And everyone should just continue to, keep their North Star in mind and make sure that they're staying on top of the latest and greatest so that they can get there more efficiently and more cost effectively.
Yes. How can I make my job easier? How can I be more effective? How can I get things done more quickly? And it does make sense to just pull people in who are already experts in this area, because one of the things that has always been a challenge in the multifamily industry is bringing in new technology and having all the new things. And then they just have to keep learning and learning and learning. And then it takes them away from actually leasing apartments. So I think that's a great idea. So as much as I hate that our time together comes to an end because I want to continue learning about AI myself, I wanted to give you both a moment to leave the audience with a bit of parting advice, just in general. What is the number one thing that you want them to take away from our conversation today? Sarah, what about you? What's the number one thing that you want people to remember?
AI is here to stay. And there's real ROI to investing the time and effort into adopting these tools. It's a need to have, not a nice to have.
I agree. And Martin, what advice would you want to leave people with? What do you need them to take away from this?
I would say the search generative experience war is on. Google has been the king of search for 20 plus years, but I think it's now vital to have a Bing strategy, because Bing right now is a little over 8% of the USA market share for search engines. And I have a feeling by 2025, it could be closer to 10%. And that could equate, if you have a really good Bing places and you're setting up Bing webmaster tools to give them more information about your site and the metrics, just keeping an eye and actually putting a little effort into Bing could help apartment marketers increase their traffic probably from 10 to 20% plus with a really good Bing strategy. And I feel like the industry is still sleeping on Bing, but I don't think it's time to sleep on it anymore. Now's the time to take action.
Okay, you heard it here, people. Thank you so much for being with us today. I really enjoyed our time together. Appreciate you both.
Absolutely. Thanks, Valerie.
Bye.
A huge thank you to our incredible guests, Martin Canchola and Sarah Liu, for sharing their invaluable insights into the transformative power of AI in the multifamily housing industry. Their expertise shed light on the exciting possibilities that lie ahead. And to you, our listeners, thank you for tuning in. I hope you found today's discussion as thought-provoking as I did. If you enjoyed this episode and want to stay updated on the latest trends and innovations in multifamily, be sure to like, follow, or subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks again for listening. I'm Valerie Sargent, and this has been Open Door, brought to you by Cox Communities. We're in the top 1% of business podcasts for a reason. Subscribe now so you never miss a moment.